an underwater graveyard, to haunted castles and forbidden islands, and even a trip down to the catacombs. This list is full of haunting places, scary stories, and chilling legends. Let's dive right into the top 10 terrifying places you should never ask Alexa about. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Chuuk Lagoon. This lagoon was the site of one of the main bases for Japan during the war, but in 1944 the United States launched an attack on it. During this, 60 ships were sunk, around 250 planes were brought down, and it is likely that researchers knew about the significance of this area, but we didn't really get a good look at it for some 70 years. A photographer who goes by the name of Super Jolly went down to this less than jolly area to snap photos of everything that can be seen down there. He called this shoot one of the scariest dives he's ever done in his life, and I can completely understand why. The area is filled with skulls, gas masks, and bullets, and many of the artifacts down here are extremely well preserved, which is great for research, but incredibly haunting. This chilling spot is now a popular diving destination as well, and many people have reported having eerie encounters with waterlogged spirits while down in the area. Regardless of whether there are ghosts down there or not, this area most definitely serves as a haunting reminder of the realities of a war. In our number 9 spot today, we have Lima Castle. This castle sits in Ireland, and it was built somewhere between the 13th and the late 15th century. Legend has it that this castle has seen an unnerving amount of gruesome deaths, so it is no wonder it sits on a list of terrifying places. Story goes that during a struggle for power within the O'Carroll clan, who are said to at the time have been known for poisoning their dinner guests, one brother rammed a sword into the other. This other brother was a priest, and at the time he was holding a mass in the chapel of the castle. The chapel is now called the Bloody Chapel, and it is rumored to be haunted by the priest. To make matters worse, during the renovations to this castle in the early 1900s, those working here ended up finding a secret dungeon below the chapel where they found a ton of human skeletons. The dungeon was designed in a way that prisoners would fall through a secret trap door, where they would then fall onto wooden spikes on the ground, and from here a slow and painful death would ensue, but of course not without the members above them being able to hear this horrific happening. This is all to say that the rumors of the haunting make a lot of sense. In our number 8 spot today, we have Poveglia Island. This small island that sits between Venice and Lido in northern Italy might be familiar to you because of the eerie tales surrounding it. While believers of the paranormal often refer to it as the most haunted island out there, the real historical stories behind the tales of the hauntings just might back those claims up. The island became a quarantine colony in the 1700s for those suffering from the bubonic plague. Definitely sounds like a bit of a living hell. In the early 20th century, the island instead now became an asylum for those in the area who were struggling with their mental health. During this period in the island's history, it has been rumored that many twisted doctors used the island's privacy as a way to practice cruel and inhumane experiments. It is no wonder that after these two extremely dark periods in the island's history, it became abandoned. The island sits empty now. I mean, unless you believe in ghosts, then I'm sure the island is full of them. No one, tourists or locals, are allowed to visit without some serious paperwork being involved, so as they say, visit at your own risk. In our number 7 spot today, we have Xunantunich. This location sits deep in the jungles of Belize, located less than a mile from the border of Guatemala. It has an unbelievably rich history, as it is an ancient Maya ruin that has been abandoned for the last 1,000 years. In the 1890s, this site had its modern discovery, and since then it has been an important site for archaeology, an amazing tourist attraction, but also is said to be a hotspot for the paranormal. It is said that the site is haunted by a female ghost. She has black hair and glowing red eyes. Referred to as the Stone Lady, it is said that she was first spotted by one of the first research teams in the area in 1893, and since then she has been frequently seen by the tallest building complex called El Castillo. No one exactly knows the story behind the Stone Lady considering the history of this site, but many believe she may have been part of a ritual sacrifice, which was a tradition and spiritual practice done by the ancient Maya civilization. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Stephens Catacombs. These catacombs can be found in Vienna, and they have a terrifying legend behind them that has to do with Death himself. Basically, Death is said to have challenged the tower warden, a full-of-himself guy named Franz, to a game of Skittles, which is sort of a lawn game. Franz prided himself on being excellent at this game, and always knocking down all 9 Skittles in one throw, so of course he accepted the challenge. Apparently he was so good at this game that no one even wanted to play with him anymore, so one night when he was playing by himself, as he usually does, when a tall, thin man in a grey cloak and hood approached him and challenged him, he was quick to accept. Franz went first and hurled the ball at the pins, knocking all 9 of them down. He then reset the pins up for his competitor, but he hid one of the 9 under his cloak, thinking that he was being all sneaky, and he threw it right out the window. Turns out the hooded man did see this all go down, and he said, "Oh no, my friend, you do not win this way." The hooded man grew taller and taller as he straightened up, and he spread out his cloak to reveal his skeleton self. He looked at Franz, who was completely confused, and said, "I am Death. I always win. I merely need to hit all 8. +1. He took his aim and blasted all 8 pins and Franz, who fell down dead amongst the Skittles. It is said that Franz now haunts the tower and the catacombs, whimpering and moaning for all of eternity as he searches for the missing 9th pin, likely never to be found. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Forbidden City. The Forbidden City is located in Beijing, China, and it has quite a reputation. This building used to be the Imperial Palace, but it is now a museum, and it sees a ton of tourists every year. This building has quite a history of death, so it is truly not surprising that it may be extremely haunted. Since the palace opened to the public in the 1940s, there has been a ton of reports of paranormal activity, mostly relating to a woman dressed in white. I know a lady dressed in white is a bit of a trope at this point, but it is always scary to think of. After all, it's not like the ghost gets to decide its outfit. Anyway, apparently this lady strolls around the palace, but she is absolutely sobbing, which is very sad and very eerie. I guess maybe it's better to encounter a sad ghost than an evil one, though. At this point, I'm not entirely sure. In our number 4 spot today, we have Edinburgh Castle. The Edinburgh Castle is located in Scotland, and while it is one of the most popular tourist attractions, it is also very haunted. It is said that many years ago, a piper was sent down into the tunnels that are below the castle, which connected to the Royal Mile. The piper was told to play his instrument while down there so that his progress through the tunnels could be tracked, but halfway through his journey, the music just stopped. Sadly, the piper was never seen again, and this story has led to the tale of the piper continuing to haunt certain areas of the castle. Apparently, he still roams around, and sometimes even faint music can be heard. There is also apparently a drummer who is said to haunt the castle as well, but he only appears when the castle is about to be attacked. Honestly, I didn't know I wanted a guard ghost until now. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Lima Catacombs. The Lima Catacombs are some of the oldest in all of South America, and even if they were relatively modern, the catacombs will always be a terrifying and haunting location. Because of this history, however, there are many dark tales hidden inside of the walls. It is said that because of the cruelty seen during the colonial era, many souls left inside the catacombs were left in pain and suffering. Many people who have visited these catacombs have reported seeing souls that are dressed in dark suits, levitating over passageways, even sometimes yelling some of the most chilling sounds that can be heard. One of the most well-known stories pertaining to this is that of an elderly monk. The spirit of this monk is said to have been seen on occasion at night just wandering through the corridors and is clearly visible to both workers and visitors alike. In our number 2 spot today, we have Forsyth Park. One thing I didn't know is that apparently the entire city of Savannah, Georgia is a pretty haunted place due to the creepy tunnels that are located underneath the city, but one of the most notable, highly haunted places within the city is Forsyth Park. Apparently there used to be a hospital across the street, and there would be autopsies performed in the tunnels that were below the park. Personally feel like autopsies are already creepy enough, so not sure if conducting them in an underground tunnel was exceptionally necessary, but hey, I can't change the past. Because of this scary practice, the park has seen a lot of paranormal activity since these days, and it usually is the sort of place where 1 second you'll see a strange figure, but as soon as you blink or look away, it disappears just as quickly as it suddenly appeared. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Eden Brown Estate. This estate is located in Nevis, which is the smaller of the 2 islands that comprise the nation of St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean. It is said that despite having just as much to offer, Nevis is often overshadowed by St. paint kits. That is, until people hear of this ghostly haunting. Eden Brown Estate is a former plantation that now lies in ruin. The estate was once owned by a businessman who was going to give the property to his daughter as a wedding present. Legend goes that on the wedding day there was a very mysterious duel between the groom and his best man that ended up leaving both of the men dead. Because of this tragic happening on what should have been her wedding day, the businessman's daughter remained unmarried and alone for the rest of her life, which meant that when she passed, there was no one to leave the estate to. Now, visitors of the estate report seeing the spirit of a very reclusive woman as she roams about the grounds. Aside from this story, who knows what other kinds of horrors and absolute tragedies this place has seen. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!